So my name is Morgon Ledner. I am employed at Volvo, and we have a lot of data centers and data rooms all over the globe, and I will tell you about my experiences in this area. I've been within this area for about 15 or 18 years maybe. I don't know how old I am anymore. I don't want to know either. So I will give you about my views about this. And I know that this Air Academy are represented by many different people from different areas and in the industry. Some of you know about data centers, don't mind the details. Some of you don't know about data centers. I will repeat some of the things that Per actually said before, but from a practical viewpoint. We go through 3 different layers today. It's the data center provider perspective, it's the environment, and a practical experience from it. As I said, AB Volvo has a lot of data centers. AB Volvo's IT department, that is Volvo IT. We provide data center capacity for all the AB Volvo companies. But AB Volvo is only one of our customers today. We have quite many more of them. Our main data center is in Gothenburg, where we have the 3 data centers. I think we have about 22, last time I checked. Someone said 56, and we have had 408 also, and the biggest number was 1,014. So it depends how you see. What is a data room? Is it a closet? It's a connection room, or is it a data center of a certain classification? But I would say we have about 14 sites with 22 different data rooms that is within the scope I will talk about, where we have to cool down, we have to heat up and take care about all the routines and legislations and all that. So Volvo is not only these 3 data centers in Gothenburg. They are big, but they are not the only ones. Our customers have very big demands on us. It's not more than like 8 years ago, we could have yearly maintenance in the data centers. We take normally the Eastern, take down the power in the morning, and if they were lucky, we were giving the power back on the afternoon and in the evening. And during that day, we can do all kind of maintenance, electrical maintenance, switching equipment, and then moving servers and all that. That is completely out of the question today. We are not allowed to take down a data center we're not allowed to take it down at all. They don't accept 1 second of downtime. Believe me, I've tried that. Oh, my colleagues at least. These are the customers that we have in the typical data centers today. Well, they maybe not typical, but our data centers have this. And I'm sure that some of you recognize them. The automotive industry, that's where we have our main focus, or did have our main focus from the legacy point of view. Today we have not only Volvo, which was Ford for some time, and now is some Chinese company, I don't actually know what. But we have Audi, BMW, Ford, Rolls-Royce, Saab, Volvo Cars still, and the whole Volvo group. They are not only using us for their warehouse programs and all that. I mean, that is only office hours. They use us for their telematics. Do you know what the telematics area is? Have you a car? Have you seen the electronics in that car? Most of these are actually alarm systems, surveillance through the satellite or through the telecommunication networks. So when the car is not feeling that good, it can give an alarm, say, okay, go directly into the next service station. Or it can say that, okay, this has been some accident here. Please come here with an ambulance. And if that's life supporting systems are down for a couple of seconds or minutes or hours, if a customer relying on that, if I get hurt or even dies, and rely on that to getting his help like this quick, and it doesn't work, you can imagine what will happen. If that is in US, you will be sued for trillions of dollars. So this has to be up and running all the time. And it is only the telematics part of it. Excuse my voice. I will probably lose it during this session, but I try to hold up. We have the industry. This is our Volvo's traditional areas for production sites. You can see many of them that you recognize. We have retails, wholesales. Ashran is one of the biggest, what would you say, Hornbach, but in France. Service sectors, you know them. And this is one of the most demanding ones. The banks that lives on transaction, moving our money forth and back between banks and institutions. That's where they say they earn their money. Each transaction gives you some profit. If you cannot do that, you will lose a lot of money. So they will sue you for that. It's also the matter of your cash handling. We don't have any cash today. We use our credit cards to pay with. If you cannot pay, you cannot buy, and no one can earn the money that you were supposed to give to the shop. Also, a lot of dependencies that we have 100% uptime all the time. So, I haven't come to this one yet. We are running Stockholm's city from Gothenburg. So, if you're running Stockholm City, you're also running Sweden. Of course, it's in our data center. But if we take down the Stockholm City, there's a lot of consequences for that. I wouldn't lie if I say this, but at least 150 companies that is involved in that. Like a gas company, traffic works, and all that. So, functions for the society that will be blown down or completely black. It also contains all of the information that our in Swedish that is våra folkvalda, our governors or those in the government. When they start a PC and log in, they are logging into the computer standing in the Gothenburg. If they cannot reach that, they cannot make any decision, see any mail or send any messages. I don't know if it's good or bad, but they will be quite upset if it doesn't work. They are connected to all the other companies as well, all the government parts and all the different communities in Sweden. As well as we have the Gothenburg city. But we are used to take it a bit cool, so it doesn't matter so much there. So these are the stakeholders for us. These are our customers, or at least our end customers. The data center itself doesn't have these as customers. We have the platforms as customers, like Windows and mainframe and that. But the end customers are these, and they are putting up the demands for what we have to deliver. So this is giving you the scope about how critical our environment is in the data center. This gives us a very peculiar situation. We cannot run a data center in an economical way, like making a cheap installation because we don't have so much money. No. It doesn't work like that. It's all about availability. We should be up and running all the time, and do maintenance during the life cycle, during the business hours. Which means we have to do a lot of investments. Should be there before. Investments. There's high investment cost. There's also a high runtime cost because we have a lot of investments there. And we have the maintenance. So running, maintain, and invest is very high for us. It's a lot of money. And what can we do to reduce it or make it doesn't look so bad? I mean, we are trying to deliver a service that is not, that our customer doesn't accept that we have too high bills or too lousy services, then they can go somewhere else with their business. So we have to make some balancing in this. Where can we own the money ourselves? When we build a data center, it has to have a high availability. But depending on how you design it, it will cost different. So we have to find out what demands do our customer has on this data center, and that data center, and that one over there, and that one in South Africa, and that one in Ukraine. Is it the same level? No, it's not. The availability for a class 1, now we're coming into tier, the tier standards that Per talked about last session. The tier standard, the lowest tier standard says 99.6% in availability for the data center per year. If you construct that, the design will make it cost about $2,500 per kilowatt. Is it? Do you want a higher standard? Good. Give me this money. You want high availability solutions or maintainable data center? Nice. I need 5,000 then. Tier 4. Congratulations. I hope you won on the stakeholders or something, because that will cost a lot of money. So what is it that costs so much in the data center? Because you need to have a high availability. Well, look at this one. It's an example. I took this from our data center in Arendal that we built latest, won't say that when. It looks like this. We have a quintet of compressors. We might do it to at least a 3, but we need to have 2 extras. Always 1 extra, at least 1 extra. So it's a double investment in some ways. We need double piping. We need more condensers so we can maintain one while we are running the business, or maybe even one of those fails and we have maintenance on one. So we have 3. We even have different way of cooling. We can do the sea cooling. We have the sea water that we cool the data center with. We can use the condensers. We can use the compressors. So there is a mix. So we need different ways to do the solutions. And in the data rooms, we need more cracks than ever, because one is on maintenance, one might fail, and we still need to run the business. So we need to be fault tolerant on a very high level. That is tier 4, the purpose of tier 4, that you can do maintenance and still have a problem, and still running the business at full speed. And this is only the cooling. Imagine that you have one of these data centers with all this cooling, but you also need all the double power. It's not enough for us. We need the first data center. We also need a second data center. Now it's costing. It's 6,000 per kilowatt there as well. And in many cases, we even have a third one for the backups. So data that is produced by the customers are written at the same time in these both data centers. And during a special period, they are backed up as well. So the data is on 3 different places at the same time. Redundancy, 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 redundancy. Security, availability, it costs. So it's easy to make an energy efficient data center if you don't have to invest everything 2 times, or even 4 times as we have here. So, yep, it's a challenge. It is a challenge. But for anyone who are going to start up something new, you just need to do some smart planning for it. I need some air. This is the next section of my speech. Environmental, what should we say? Environmental care? Maybe not. Consequences? Maybe not that either, but environmental thoughts in this area are vital. As I said, I'm working for AB Volvo. And I cannot trick you or anyone else. We are in the automotive business. The products our customers are producing are contributing to the pollution every day. That's what they do. It's not much more than that. So how can a business with this as a product actually work with green IT and green business, environmental care and sustainability? I wouldn't say why, but we come to that later. Well, it is, of course, your own conscious, and the company's conscious, and the employees' conscious that matters here. Volvo has been working with environmental questions since the early 70s. They are always coming up with new inventions and new solutions that makes their product a little more green than anything else. Environmental care, yes. They put a lot of money in their R&D to produce those new, better solutions. Sometimes they result in lower fuel economy. That's good because that's an economy part of it as well. That's quite normal running the green perspective. That's the money. As you say, it's all about the money, as you said, Per. So what is green for our customers? It doesn't matter if they are Volvo or Ashutan or Assa Abloy or whatever customer we have. Their thoughts are, if you take this is a sign that is in San Francisco. A smog warning today. And no one with their mind med förnuftet i behåll would put in their own advertising under this sign. You don't want to be connected to this. Even if this is our products, we don't want to show up there. So Volvo is doing, and other customers are doing everything they can to just be an alternative, to be a green choice. If you have bought something that is less carbon dioxide intensive than something else, then you have made the green choice. So the important thing is that we always do the choice. We do think about it and make the choice from an environmental perspective. Even if you going to buy a diesel engine or a diesel generator that produces this amount of carbon dioxide, well, compare it. Well, they have something else that produces this amount of carbon dioxide. Okay, it's easy. I take this one because that is a green choice. It's better. And if you buy a Volvo truck or something, it's supposed to be greener than an alternative. So that is what is green. Very simple. We can go into details and talk a lot about what is green, how to define it, and how you should do it. But it's just a lot of word that wrapping up a truth that we don't often present. And that is, it's cost. Save money. We've been working at data centers for 20 years with green data centers. No, it's not green data center. We are working with cost reductions. And for us, that means less energy. Less energy consumption. We doesn't produce quicksilver or, that's not the name for it. Or much carbon dioxide or waste in any way, actually. So For us, it's saving energy all the time, saving energy. So that's what we're working with. And it's not only, of course, it's not only saving cost. It's not that pure focus on the cost savings. Working with green IT has more benefits than that. Of course, it is cost, but it is also, if we have a good control over the environment and using less power and are smart with the way we're using power in a data center, then we also make it more flexible for us. We can place equipment smarter. We can put it in denser, higher density. We can even shut down parts of the data center that we doesn't use, and consolidate and so on and so on and so on. So this gives us a green perspective and also contributes to our image, which is extremely important. We shouldn't underestimate it, because those companies that doesn't sorry, those companies that doesn't work with with green IT today, they will be gone tomorrow. Anyone with a brain today who make business decisions looks into the green perspective and the long consequences and the sustainability that is the buzzword for the last 2 or 3 years is something that is always considered today in business, in the higher businesses. So we have to be there. But when we talk about airflow, air control, power usage, cooling, we have an advantage for the market, for the rest of the market, because that's what we do. We do it in smart ways because we want it to cost less to produce more, to produce smarter, to not have to be forced to invest in new equipment. Can we use the equipment we have now and produce more? That is a cost saving, but it's also a green alternative. I take some samples from my world, and that is the 2 data centers we have in Gothenburg. They are about 3,000 square meters, as I said. We use 17 megawatt approximately, and we have 2 different of them. That one is cooled with air cooling and one with sea cooling. So we have possibilities to elaborate with those and see the differences as well. If I show you this one, this is an average. This is not our data centers. This is an average, a cut and paste from the web a couple of days ago, saying that the cost for data centers are constantly growing, slowly but growing. The investment in hardware doesn't go up that much. It's a little bit more expensive today, but not much. The green one part here, that is the electricity, I would say. Yeah. It doesn't go up that much either. But the big costs are the runtime costs when it comes to maintenance and support, hands-on, all that. So if you look at the green part here, it has been growing more and more and more on these ones. And if you take this last section here, we will compare it to what we have done in our data center. During the last 5-6 years, we have bought a lot of equipment. We have now 40% more servers in our data centers than we had at 2009. That's the green part here. 40% more servers. During the same time, we have raised the temperature from about 20-21 degrees up to 29 degrees. And that has resulted in that we now have an energy consumption that is, well, not more than 6% higher than it was from the beginning. So by only raising the energy consumption with 6%, we have not all doubled the amount of servers, but almost 40% more on the same cost. That is that is really, really good. And we have only adapted the equipment that we have to a new situation. We haven't not done much of investments in this. That didn't cost us any much money. It cost us patience, trial and errors, and hands and feet works, of course. To do this, we can look into a data center here. Where are we consuming our energy? Well, IT equipment, it's about 40 to 50%. Let's say that they consume 40%. What is the rest of the energy taken? Well, that is for the cooling, about 50, 55%. What else is? The UPS is not that efficient. That's a really good UPS, but say it's an average is there. So if Per talked about PUE before, power usage efficiency. The PUE, I make this PUE for dummies. The PUE, the IT equipment, the energy they take to be heated up is always the same. We call that 1. Even if it is 50,000 kilowatts, that is considered to be 1. Now we add, what more power do we use? Well, we'll use 50, that's 40%. It's 50% here, 55, 56. Okay, and that will be like 60,000 kilowatts. So that is, if you translate it over here, so it's 1.2 compared with this one. And this will be a PUE on 2.2. Simple. And that's quite good data center. I would say that 2.5, 2.7 is an average for our older data centers. We have a big one that is actually up on 3. Not very efficient. But it's still constructed as a data center. And it's still running. When we upgrade it, the figures will be better, of course. We'll aim to get it down to about 2. 2 is good. 2 is really good. If you don't have the capacity as we have in Gothenburg, where we cool down with seawater. So, also a warning about this PUE, power usage efficiency. You can fix that figure as you want. Is it too high for your data center or your building, whatever? Well, connect it to the fresh water pipes in the community and cool the data center down with fresh water. Fresh water is not electricity, so power is electricity. Power is not water. So you can get down the PUE to 1. Okay, your water bill will be high, but it's not the PUE will go down. So there is no way to say that you're doing exactly the right thing when you measure the PUE. So there will be new ways of measuring PUE. So be careful when you see people or companies comparing different things with PUE. Okay, that company has that PUE, that company has this PUE. Oh, they are good. They are maybe only honest. We never know that. Okay, we leave that. The energy part. Welcome. Practical issues. How do we achieve a lower cost? What have we done? What can you do? What can everyone do? First of all, we have to look at the design in a data room or a data center. I say data center about everything that has more than one rack. Just to be nice. Really bad pictures. It's a little bit dark, but this is a typical way of placing server racks. One here, one over here, and 2 over there. A lot of space between it because it's easy to maintain. You can go around, you can fiddle with it, and you have. It's a standard setup for an older data center. If we want to have something that is better, well, we have to redesign and move the equipment. This equipment has a typical infrared spotting like this. It's cool here. and the equipment that is here is heating up the equipment that is on the top, and that equipment is heating up that is on the top there, because air flow is not even there. This is one way to do it, a cold row or a hot row, if you want that. Different schools, but the same principle. You have a cold row like this. You say, put the servers in these rows and have the front facing each other. Let the cold air up here. And the air goes into the server. Cold air is like gold. That is what's costing us. So we see to that it works as it is supposed to. And it ends up where it is supposed to. We can never press any hot or cold air into a server. They have their own fans. They suck in their air constantly. We just have to provide very easily in here cold air so they can eat from that. We can never press any air into a server. It has its own fans. To secure that you get hot air in front of the server. So when the server sucks in the air, it is cold air. You have to see that there's not a backdraw, that you have hot air coming back into the front of the server area. So like this, you can see the plates here. Blind panels. If you don't have any service here, okay, we put the blind panel there. In the side, between the rack end and the server rack, this is a bigger rack, so we'll end up with some open space here. You cover that as well. So when the air coming up from the floor, it just passes here. And it passes through the inlets here, and it's sucked in. Good. If you don't have these ones, hot air will come back in here. The cold air doesn't go out this way. It's almost physically impossible if you don't have any extreme pressure up from the floor. So the air is sucked back because the fans of the front of the servers are here. They are sucking. They are like vacuum cleaners all the time. Remember that. So by doing this, easily, you can see we can put in small tails. We don't need that massive airflow. We can raise the temperature in the room, or the return temperature to the cooling units, up to 28 degrees. We said, okay, we had 28 degrees in the room. Not really. The air coming up here from the cooling machines, it's about 14, 16, 12, whatever you choose. And it's coming in here. It's also coming in up here. Because that air that you're pushing into this cold room has no way to disappear somewhere else. That is not needed. If the service is not eating up all the air for you, it will spill up over the top of the rack. So to prevent that, you have to design your floor tails in a smart way as well. Start with taking away all the tiles, perforated tiles that you have in the data room that is not exactly in front of any server that actually is going to consume the air. Backside in the open, inside the door. I've seen horrible examples of that, and it's quite normal. Okay, there was a rack standing there 2 years ago, but the tail is still there. It's consuming power, and that is money. That air will go directly back into the cooling units and just circulating. Doesn't do any good anywhere. So if you have high density equipment, you might need this kind of tails. This is a standard tail. We call it a full tail. This one has 80% more holes in it, which means that it has a bigger airflow as well and can provide all the air that rack fully equipped with blade servers need. A blade server rack can consume about 15 kilowatts. That is 15 kilowatts in a space smaller than a normal cupboard. Theoretically, it can consume 40 kilowatts. We haven't seen that anywhere, but it's possible. And that is a lot of air, 40 kilowatts. That's almost as much as it is in a small data room, an average small data room. It will probably be needed 125 billion or million cubic meters of air to cool it down. So we have to be very, 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 very careful about where we are letting all the air in. It doesn't stop there. When we have the blind plates in place, we close the ends of this cold or hot rows, so we don't suck in air from the outside to the nearest racks as well. There are different ways to do this. With this one you need a handle. You have to have two hands to do it. This one, okay, it says a sensor. You do it like this and it's open automatically. This is a solution with, we could call it butcher's curtain. If you have equipment in your hand, you can just push your way through it. It's not very difficult. And it's heavy enough to hanging straight without being pushed into the cold row if there is under pressure in there. So now we have contained the airflow inside this cold row. So now we are pumping in the cold air in that one. Perfect. We are still not earning any money. What's wrong? Bypass air, it's called. I learned that on a course. Fancy word. The bypass air is the air that passes by the servers without doing any news at all. Like the tails that is spread out in the data rooms. And the bypass air is mostly coming from the backside of the servers, in the hot rows, where you have the cables. It's also between the plates. If the floor doesn't fit together perfectly, you have a lot of spill in these areas. Or in the area between the raised floor and the wall. In some data centers, you can stick in your fingers into that. Okay, it's difficult to adopt it and install it perfect, but you shouldn't accept that. There should be some kind of cover along the walls as well. There's a lot of money coming up that way. So these, what is it, grommets, I call it a sponge. It's something that you actually can squeeze together, put in the hole, and it expands. Very nice. A grommet, okay, it's more expensive. It takes more energy, more work actually to get it in place. And this one is a simple one. Just a piece of plastic, cut with a scissor and put in place. It's simple, cheap, but it works. It does the job. It saves money. So by doing all these kinds of practical installation, you can see that nothing of that was kind of expensive. If we look up these ones, this is plastic. It's quite cheap. Very cheap and very simple to install. Doesn't cost much. So this is a picture of the actual situation in one of those rows that we have. With the end capping, with the plates. Here is it plastic, a type of plastic, I would say. It's almost invisible, but it's there. Look at this one. Here's the air coming up. It's about 16, 17, 18 degrees. The inlet here is about, can I say, 19. It's 19 degrees here. Up here, it's 21.5. And in the top, it's only 22. So the temperature only rises 2-3 degrees from the bottom level up to the top server. So the top server has almost the same cooled air as the bottom server has here. So that means that we can pump in cold air that is about 19 degrees. Sometimes that's not even considered as cold air. It's hot air sometimes. So that means that we will save a lot of money with this simple and rather cheap solutions. Okay, that was examples from us. We foresee that there are some challenges. A data center for us today will not look as it is tomorrow. Okay, we don't know how it's going to look. We built our data center in Arendal for 10 years ago. It's still good. Will it still be good in 10 years? I don't have a clue. But it's flexible, and we are flexible. We're trying to be. And see what does the market have to offer, what science are developing, and what techniques are changing. We know for sure that the new server technology will give us a higher delta temperature. You know the delta temperature? The difference between the air that we are pumping in to the room and the temperature that is going back to the cooling equipment. The difference there, if it is 19 there and it is 29 here, the delta temperature is 10 degrees. That temperature will be rising because of the equipment are produced in a new way. There are more CPU units, there are more disks, there are smaller, we can fit in more in the same area, and so on and so on. We don't know actually what's going to happen, but we see the tendency. And the high density equipment, already today we have equipment that actually wants 3 times 32 amperes in feed for 1 rack. Jesus, that's a lot of power. But is our data center prepared for that? That on one spot we'll have that enormous production of hot air. How do we cool that? Can we actually foresee that hot air is coming, or cold air coming in, and that amount that is actually needed when that equipment is going to run at full speed one day? I don't know. I don't know what the techniques are for cooling that kind of equipment. We are glad and we are lucky today that they are only running this type of equipment to a very low level of utility. So they're running at 20-25%, maybe. Lucky us. And the outsourcing and the cloud services. Well, it can mean that we all of a sudden need to install 50 new racks of servers because now we are going to host a cloud environment. Ooh. Do I have the equipment for that? Do I have the space for that? Do I need to move stuff around? Do I need to do investments for that? Or the opposite way. Someone decides in the company that, okay, all this is going to have over here, it's going to be out on the cloud. So they just take it away and put it out on the cloud. So all of a sudden I have a half empty data center. How does my cooling equipment relate to that? How can I adjust it? How can this power equipment be adjusted to that so it still will be energy efficient? That's also a tough question. It's big infrastructural changes that will affect us in a way we actually don't know how it will end.